5 Vols, 5 Huskies to watch. So we'll get to that right now. And I assume, Caleb, you're going to spin this forward a little bit because Joe Milton could go out there and go 18 for 18 for 300 yards in the first half. And I don't know that he's necessarily the guy to watch. So I'm interested to see the direction you go in this because I think you want to see guys make significant improvements against a team like the Huskies. So let's go ahead and get to it. Portions of the program brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning, 50 years in East Tennessee. Integrity matters. Don't trust a fly-by-night HVAC company to tell you that you need a new unit that could cost you thousands or more. So here we go. Do you want to start with the Huskies or do you want to start with the Vols? That is your call.
Start with the Vols because I will tell you why you're wrong on what you just said.
Oh, wow. Well, man, that sounds a little harsh. Peyton, what do you think about that?
Like, that is total bullshit.
Right. Easy, Peyton. Good gracious. He always comes out of the chute on our show just with all kinds of obscenities. It's absolutely befuddling. He doesn't have that sort of public image. All right, so let's get to the 5 Vols. So you got Joe Milton at number 4, who I addressed, and you're going to tell me why I'm wrong. But let's start with Chaz Nimrod. Chaz, I am not a Nimrod. That's his nickname from now on. Why is he number 5? And by the way, I think I know, and I love this pick. I might even have him as number 1. But Chaz Nimrod, go ahead.
Yeah, so UConn has struggled defending wideouts the last 2 weeks. There's something there with them. I mean, they're 1-7. So can you spot a weakness in UConn? I mean,
but I was getting ready to ask you, what have they excelled in lately?
But they have actually been in a lot of their games. They actually haven't lost a game by more than 1 score since early September. So they're losing like 21-14 or whatever. I think this is the type of game where Chaz Nimrod has shown flashes as a guy who can replace Brew McCoy as the physical wideout to dictate coverage. This is the game for him to really kind of prove himself in that regard. Tennessee should take a lot of shots his way and see if he can have that impact. So I think Nimrod is a very key player. And if he stands out, you could be looking at a long-term option at wideout.
You said something there. Do you really think you've seen enough out of him physically to think that he could be even close to what Brew McCoy was last year in replacing Cedric Tillman? Because now you have to replace Brew McCoy. Do you feel like you've seen enough? I don't feel like I have.
I see the size, and I see the hands. Chaz Nimrod. I saw the hands against Texas A&M. I know Milton only had 100 yards in that game, but he threw a pass way behind Nimrod, his first pass, and Nimrod caught it over the middle. Brew McCoy I actually see better hands than Brew McCoy's hands, quite honestly. Now, do I see the leaping one-on-one balls? No, but I mean, I don't see why he can't do that.
Okay. He's 6'3" right now. He's just short of 200 pounds. The guy needs to come into next season at about 210 to be the physical presence that you would want at receiver, assuming he can maintain that with his frame and not lose speed. So number 4, you got Joe Milton. I would say that Joe Milton. Did I interrupt you? Sorry.
Yeah, I was going to ask with these physical receivers, we talk about minimum level with wideouts, is there a base level of speed you have to have, or does speed really matter for these physical wideouts on the outside that much?
I think it's like we talked about with throwing arms and arm strength. I think there's a base. I don't think you can run around out there at a 4.6 regularly and stay open. But I do think that he has. I don't think there's a guy that's playing on Tennessee's football team that doesn't have enough speed right now. So I think he'll be fine. But I do think you would like for him to win one-on-one battles like Brew McCoy was going to do this season. Number 4, you've got Joe Milton, balls to watch against the Huskies. Why? Because goodness gracious, he could go out there and ball out and he's still going to be the starter. And let's be really honest with you. People want to see. Be sure and hit the like and subscribe button. Nico insists you do so. Why Milton at 4?
Because, look, I would have a different list if the Austin Peay game didn't happen. But the Austin Peay game happened, and I was like, we went into that game thinking like last year, like, oh, it's a hooker offense. They'll put up 60 and then pull their starters and call it a day. And then they couldn't put Austin P away until the fourth quarter, and Nico never got in the game. So now they're in a similar situation where people are high on Milton again after last week, and they got a bad team in UConn coming to town. And the question is, can Milton actually put a bad team away at halftime? We haven't seen him do it yet, Dave.
Okay. This Huskies team's pretty bad. Wesley Walker, number 3. I want to see if makes this list of Vols to watch. Wesley Walker, number 3. Why?
Jim Mora Jr. runs the West Coast offense. He's tried to force it on everybody he's had. He tried to force Michael Vick to run the West Coast offense, which is the worst match ever made. I'm sure you remember that, Dave, in Atlanta in 2004. Mm-hmm. Maybe the stupidest thing anybody ever tried to do with Michael Vick. But, well, outside of what his friends tried to do with him off the field. But, okay. Should
we just make a dog abuse reference?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
So Jim Mora Jr., with the West Coast offense, as you know, Dave, the physicality of the safeties cheating up is huge. The safeties have to be able to read the quarterback, and they have to be able to react quickly. And so Wesley Walker, just to shut down the offense, is going to be the key to doing that.
Okay, who's going to flip out on the message board if this guy doesn't make the final 2? Okay, pressure's on Caleb Calhoun now, because we're now at number 2, who doesn't even play offense, so it can't be number 2.
It's Elijah Herring. And the West Coast offense, you got to be able to close the gaps on running plays and not let running plays get into the third level. And you also have to be able to handle passes over the middle for quick timed routes. That's huge for the middle linebacker. So it's Elijah Herring.
Who do you most want to see on the message board? Because we're at number 1.
This is not about who we most want to see. This is about who is most important to winning the game.
5 balls to watch. 5 balls to watch. I'm tweaking it a little bit. All right. So who do you want? Who do you want to see star on Saturday against the Huskies? By the way, Jim Mora Jr., you got to congratulate him, because he must have been involved in some sort of I don't know, mafia scheme, because you talk about witness protection program. UConn is the place to be. Surely number 1 is. Please tell me, Caleb, please, for the love of all that's holy, tell me he's the guy that you want to see.
Nope, because it's not about who I want to see. It's who Tennessee needs to step up, and Tennessee is not going. Nico Iamaleava is not going to be the one to put this game away. They won't put him in until the game is put away. And the question is, can they put the game away? And we don't know. So number 1 is Jalen Wright, because you beat UConn by torching them on the ground, and Jalen Wright is a physical back. We know what Jalen Wright does. So Jalen Wright needs to get 100 yards in the first quarter. Sorry.
Travis says Nico being a bust won't make this list. For those of you that are just joining today that weren't with us yesterday, we were joking about Nico being a bust. Rob says Nico should be on the list, but he's not. And I'm a little bit heartbroken by that. Portions of the program brought to you by Herald Group Security Solutions. We're going to look at those Huskies. Leadership, experience, specialization, addressing problems through unique mission-specific mitigation techniques, also making your children safer, one school at a time. We're with private schools now. Want to go with public schools. So go to your school administrator and say, Herald Group Security Solutions, heraldgrp.com. Support our sponsors. They are right below. All right. So the Huskies that you want to keep an eye on, I'll be honest with you. I mean, if they want to borrow just for a little bit so that I can see him play, I'm fine with that. You know, you could just switch jerseys. But all right, let's go through these Huskies. You got Jackson Mitchell at linebacker.
I'm going to start by saying Nico Iamaleava could not run the West Coast offense. But anyways, that's not his game.
That dude could run any offense.
Jackson Mitchell's UConn's leading playmaker on defense, leads the team in tackles.
Wait, why couldn't he run? Why couldn't he run the West Coast offense, Peyton?
Like, that is total bullshit.
Because the West Coast offense is about short precision accuracy. Nico Iamaleava's strength is his big arm.
I have been told that he's crazy good accurate.
Okay, I'm sure he is on deep balls, but how often do you throw the precision, quick 5-yard hitch routes or quick passes over the middle on 3-step drops in Josh Heupel's offense. Nobody knows how accurate he is on those things because you never actually run those in Heupel's offense.
That's a fair point. All right, so you got Mitchell at number 5. Do we want to say anything about Mr. Mitchell?
He has a defensive touchdown on the year, an interception, a fumble recovery, 81 tackles, 39 solo tackles. Pretty much does it all. 3.5 tackles for a loss. So he's the linebacker, the overall playmaker on their defense.
Okay. And then we have Taquan Roberson at quarterback, who, just for the record, is not as talented as who? All right, but what do you think of UConn's quarterback?
He's also not as talented as L. Roberson. Who remembers him? Kansas State, 2004. Big 12 championship.
What's his name again?
L. Roberson.
Oh, I do remember him. Yeah.
Led Kansas State to the Big 12 title with the blowout over Oklahoma, the Oklahoma team that was considered the greatest team of all time until that game.
I'm just glad Jim Mora Jr. got a shout out.
Taquan, he hasn't been good this year. He's completing 57% of his passes. And by the way, I keep bringing up the West Coast offense. Dave, the West Coast offense is designed for you to have high completion percentages. So if you're only completing 57% of your passes in that offense, you're bad. So he's a bad quarterback, but he's the quarterback, so he's got to be on the list.
Daniel throws one out there. First of all, Rob says, Caleb, what are you smoking? You don't have to smoke, by the way. If you go to our friends at Hemp House Chat with 2 T's, the premier hemp dispensary, but you can smoke online with a wide variety, great selection, and strict standards to ensure you only receive the best in CBD or Delta products. Go with the Big Orange Crunch. Use the promo code HOOKED. HOOKED, get 10% off. There's a lot of stuff out there. You want to make sure you're safe. Hemp House Chat with 2 T's.com. Where were we? I got lost. Caleb, what are you smoking?
Taquan Roberson. What's next?
Daniel wants to see the Okoye kid at tight end. I think you're going to see Ethan Davis before him. And so who's next? We're at number 3, Price Yates.
Yes, he is the edge rusher for UConn. He has 4.5 sacks, 8.5 tackles for a loss on the year. So, and Joe Milton did get sacked twice last week. So if UConn's going to make this a game, they're going to want to try to get a couple of sacks in the first half, and Price Yates will be key for them to do that. Any
relation to Doug Yates of Doug Yates Racing?
I have no idea.
Okay. Chris Sharon, defensive back. Will he have even a pass breakup against the Vols? Your thoughts, and any relation to Ed Sheeran, even though it's spelled differently?
It's spelled differently, and I don't think he's nearly as good at his job as Ed Sheeran is at his job, because Ed Sheeran's amazing. But
gosh,
love Ed Sheeran. But I will say that, okay, so Chris Sharon is a safety. Playmaker kind of is kind of that do-it-all safety, kind of like Wesley Walker for Tennessee. And Joe Milton, as you and I know, can be prone to mistakes every now and then. If he throws a pass behind a player over the middle, it could be an interception for Chris Sharon. So leads the team. He has 2 picks on the year, so watch out.
And the number 1 Husky to watch is it's not. It's Cameron Edwards, the running back, who's pretty good and on a little bit of a hot streak there. Well, as hot as you can get in Connecticut.
Well, look, this is an indictment on Mora, because Victor Rosa was, by the way, look at the picture of Victor Rosa if you want to pull it up and tell me this guy does not look like a running back. Victor Rosa looks like a kicker if you look at him. And Jim Mora was starting him at running back all year. He got hurt, and then Cameron Edwards came in, and he's gone over 100 yards from scrimmage in each of the last 2 games. So I think, yeah.
No, go ahead. Don't let that comment on the message board throw you off. Continue your thought.
No, I just say Victor. I think Cameron Edwards is now going to be their best offensive weapon, and Jim Mora. You have to question how he ever thought Victor Rosa was better. I can look at Victor Rosa and say, how is this guy a running back?
Travis says a little more ginger in your hair, Caleb, and you look like Ed Sheeran. I can see that, and he's a good-looking dude, so that's a compliment.
He also apparently parties like nobody's business. There were a couple of rappers who were like, oh, we're going to show you how we party here in America, and they were in Miami, and Ed Sheeran went all night. And I think DJ Khaled was like, I had to go to sleep. I couldn't hang with him.
Can we do that thing where we meld together our faces so you would get the slightly red hair and then see if we together would look like Ed Sheeran? So if Caleb and I had a child, which is physically impossible and not going to happen even if it was, would it look like Ed Sheeran? That's the question I have for you. So let's see if we can merge those together.